So let's give it a try here. Web, butterfly, and there she is. Looks like it's raining in Denver. So this was a script written, under time pressure in front of an audience. I had to cut a few corners. Let me explain to you what I would do, what additionally I would do to the script in order to make it suitable for being included with Nmap, which I hope it is. We should have an HTTP brute script soon. The port rule should be expanded. Just matching against port 80 is lame. We should match against port 80 and the other common HTTP ports, as well as any ports that Nmap's version detection has detected as HTTP. So I would use a short port library to make that very easy. I would add script arguments so that we hard-coded cam.jpg. I would add a script argument to control that. I would add more documentation for usage and output. And finally, this is important, I want it to be able to cache these credentials in the registry so that scripts that run later through our dependency system can use them. So for example, if we ran this HTML title in conjunction with HTTP brute, HTML title should run second, and it would give you the title Denver Cam instead of the title 401 unauthorized. Let me turn it back over to Fyodor now, and he'll tell you what's coming up next in NSE.
All right, thank you, David. So here's some new things that we have in mind for NSE. And this isn't some pie in the sky, maybe we'll do these some year or not sort of thing. These are actually things we're working on now and hope to have within the next month or so. One of them is called pre-rules and post-rules. We've seen so far that Nmap, we've seen two types of NSE rules. We've seen the port rules that run against a particular port, and we've seen the host rules that run against a particular host. These new rules, the pre-rules, will run before the scan even starts, and the post-rules run after the scan is done. Now here's kind of our ideas for what you're going to do with those scripts. Pre-rule might be useful for scripts like, say you want to do a DHCP server broadcast request to try and figure out, what the network you're on, what the net mask is, what sort of IP addresses it's assigning. That's not something you want to run against every target host. That's something you want to do once at the beginning and print the results. Similarly, you might do a broadcast ping and print out all of the machines that respond to this sort of ping. The post rules you might use for reporting. For example, Nmap normally shows you every host one at a time and all the ports open on that host, but you could write a post rule script that does a reverse index and shows you like one port, say SSH on port 22, shows all of the hosts that have that port open, so you can then run a SSH related command against all of them. The next feature is called target acquisition scripts, and it actually ties into what I just talked about before. What if a script like that DHCP discover script could then take that net mask and network that it got from the DHCP server, instead of just printing it out, what if it could hand it to Nmap to let it do further scanning with? What if the broadcast ping script could take all of the machines that respond to a broadcast ping, pass that to Nmap, and do whatever sort of scan you requested? And so I think having both of those together, they'll be very synergistic and make it more easy. Zone transfers might be another one. You could have a pre-rule script, which you give it a domain, it finds the authoritative servers for that domains, it tries them all for zone transfers, and then can either print the result, or you can tell it just pass the results directly to Nmap for further scanning. We also have a lot of scripts in the queue. Like I said, we're always growing there. I'm not going to discuss them in much depth, but there's a VNC information script, a brute forcing script for VNC, a subversion brute forcing script, a host map script that says for the IP you scanned, it actually uses a third-party database to say, here's a bunch of DNS names that resolve to this particular IP. So for example, a web hosting server, you can kind of see what all it serves. The HTTP XST is a cross-site tracing related detection script. And we have some libraries in the queue too. One more thing I wanted to show off because it's pretty neat. There's a lot of new stuff in NSE, and we don't have time to look at too much of it, but I do want to show you a script related feature, which was going to be in the upcoming features until yesterday when we checked it in. And so we don't have to be root to use this. Nmap pops up, and with the scripting, you saw that there's a whole lot of different scripts. They take a lot of arguments. If you're a real Nmap command line wizard, you can do it through there. But sometimes it can be easy with Nmap's profile editor. We added a new scripting tag, which shows you all the scripts that are available to run. Let's look at one like NFS-LS that we talked about before. We click on it, and it shows us the description of the script over here. It shows us the different arguments that it could take. Like we'll stop at the max files and say we only want to show up to 10. And then you can see how it has filled that in to the Nmap command up here. Similarly, we'll say we want to run this script, and this script, and this script. And again, it kind of gives you the exact command that you want to use, which can be useful at times. Oops. Oh, here we go. And now I have some really, really brief Nmap developments and news I wanted to share. We have about 6 minutes left, so I'm really going to shoot through these really quickly. But there's some neat things that you guys might want to look at in the future. Here, for example, a tool that not as many people as I think should recognize exists and how easy it is to use. It's a simple concept, but the idea is Endif takes 2 scans you've done, maybe one day and one the next, and shows you the differences between those scans. What new hosts are up, what new services are available, what services have changed version number. Here I did a whole scan of Facebook's network on July 24th, so a few days ago, and then one on July 25th of the same network, and I look at what changed. Here we see they changed some light HTTPD servers to NGINX server. We see this legacy mail system changed a little bit. And from there, from your baseline of your network, you can really get a good eye on what has changed very easily. In the Facebook case, it would be a pain for me to do this scan every day, do the diff manually. So this is how simple as cron job it takes in order to do this. All I do every morning, this script runs. It does a scan of all of Facebook's IP addresses, and it compares that to the scan it did the previous day with Endif, and it prints out the differences as well as the full scan results, and then cron mails me the data, and I can look over it and see what they're up to. Another tool I wanted to talk about is Ncat. How many people here are users of Hobbit's original Netcat? Okay, again, pretty much everybody, because it's a darn useful tool. And you might wonder why it is that I would bother even re-implementing such a tool. The problem I saw was that Hobbit's networks have changed in the past decade, but the original Netcat hadn't. I understand that Hobbit decided that he wanted to do concert tour stage lighting and hang around with rock stars. Some people think that's more fun and glamorous than staying at home debugging network code. Obviously, I disagree. And so we did Ncat, which gives you features like SSL encryption support, proxy support. It can be a proxy server or proxy through several servers. It's portable, port redirection, IPv6, better access control, a neat feature called connection brokering. One feature that it still is missing, it doesn't have the port scanning feature of original Netcat. I actually have another tool I like to use for that. Nping we're working on, and this is sort of a ping tool like your normal system ping or hping3 or whatever, but again, added some features that we really wanted to see. One of the most exciting, and that we have code working right now in our experimental tree for, is called echo mode. And what that does is with normal ping, you may ping the system and get nothing back. What was your packet dropped on the way there? Did the system receive it but not respond? Did it get dropped on the way back? With echo mode, you run or you tell the person you're debugging with to run nping in echo server mode on the other system, and then you nping it, and it shows you right in the nping line, along with the sent and received packets, it shows you the captured packets received on the server. So you can see, oh, was there network translation involved that changed the IP address or port address when it got to the server? Did it get to the server and then it was the response that was dropped? It's really a neat little tool for network debugging and understanding. We have a tool called Ncrack, which is a network authentication cracker, which for SSH, for example, it really shines on in cracking that very quickly. And we have a Google-sponsored Summer of Code student named Thilgor, who's right now within days of finishing the RDP cracker, which is great because that's a protocol that traditionally there aren't very many tools which support. By the way, nping is by a guy named Louis Martingras, who's another Google-sponsored Summer of Code student. And a third Summer of Code student is working on Nmap, an online scanning service that you can use to say, oh, scan my network every day and send me alerts of the differences that you find. And it's a handy thing. Finally, I wanted to mention the Nmap script authors. Basically, sometimes I get way more credit than I deserve just because I wrote Nmap 13 years ago. But really, it's a true open source project, and the only reason it's anywhere near where it is today is because of contributors by a wide number of people worldwide. So this is the list of just the people who've written NSE scripts, and it's just a small subset of the list of people who've contributed to Nmap in total. Final notes, Ron Bose, the SMB, the writer we already talked about who did the SMB scripts, and today he was on Slashdot for basically downloading all of Facebook's profile names. I think he got 177 million of them. He's going to be doing a Black Hat Arsenal to talk more about NSE scripts, and he has some cool demos planned, and it's tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 12:30 at Station 5. So I hope people will come and take a look at what he has, and he can answer any NSE questions you have. We're going to post the slides for this on Friday at insecure.org/presentations. As soon as we get the video, we'll post that too, and the URLs for downloading Nmap. So with that out of the way, we have about 1 minute for 1 or 2 questions. Who's got a question for us?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Does the author rate the scripts? Because what if they're wrong? They don't know what they've created is a really bad script and they rate it as safe.
Yeah, we have to review them very carefully before putting them in.
Yeah,
so for the rest of the questions, you can kind of come up here and we'll talk with you more. For everyone else, thank you for coming, and